The Mamertine Prison, known in antiquity the Tullianum, was a prison located in the Comitium in ancient Rome. It was built in the 7th century BC and was situated on the northeastern slope of the Capitoline Hill, facing the Curia and the imperial fora of the Nerva, Vespasian and Augustus. Located between it and the tabularium or record house was a flight of stairs leading to the arcs of the Capitoline known as the Gemonian Stairs. The Church of San Giuseppe del Falegnami now stands above the Mamertine. The origins of the prison's name are uncertain. The traditional derivation of Tullianum is from the name of one of the Roman kings, Tullus Hostilus or Savius Tullius. But there is another alternative theory that the name is derived from the archaic Latin Tullius, which means a jet of water, in reference to the cistern located at the Mamertine Prison. The name Mamertine is medieval in origin and may be a reference to the nearby temple of Mars. According to oral tradition, the prison was constructed around 640 to 616 BC by Ancus Metius. It was originally created as a cistern for a spring in the floor of the second lower level. Prisoners were lowered through an opening into the lower dungeon. However, under Roman statutory law, imprisonment was not a sentence, though detention is mentioned in the 12 tables and throughout the digest. Detention, however, includes debt bondage in the early republic, the wearing of chains, mainly for slaves, and during the imperial era, a sentence of hard labor was at the mills, mines, or quarries. Slaves or lower status citizens who were sentenced to hard labor were held in prison camps. Incarceration in facilities such as the Tullianum was intended to be a temporary measure prior to trial or execution. Abuses of this principle occurred but were officially censored. Located near the law court, the Tullianum was used as a jail or holding cell for short periods before executions. It was also used as a site for execution on many instances. If you are still watching up to this point, please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. In 63 BC, certain co-conspirators of Gatilene, including Publius Cornelius Lentulus Sura, were held briefly in the Tullianum and executed there for their alleged plot to overthrow the government. The executions in this case were conducted hastily, without a due process of appeal, during the consulship of Cicero. This singular action led to him being exiled. There is no evidence that the Tullianum was used for long-term incarceration. The lowest dungeon was unsuited for this purpose. The level above might have been suited in theory though. Long-term incarcerations was more common in the later empire and beginning in the 4th century, under Christian control, Roman regulations and occasional personal involvement on the part of an emperor suggest a growing need to combat abuses such as filthy conditions and torture. The interesting part, though, is the significance of this prison to Christianity. It is, however, not clear when the prison went out of use permanently, but the site has been utilized for Christian worship since medieval times and is now home to 2 churches: the Giuseppe del Falegnami, the upper church, and Pietro in Caesarea, the lower church. The cross on the altar in the lower chapel is upside down. According to tradition, St. Peter was crucified that way, since he believed he was too small to suffer the same fate as his Savior, Jesus Christ. It has long been referenced that St. Peter was imprisoned at the Tullianum, and that the spring in the bottom of the pit came into existence miraculously to enable him conduct baptisms. However, the Catholic Encyclopedia points out that the spring had existed long before, and that there is little first-hand account of St. Peter's imprisonment other than being the only single-cell prison available for VIPs that were deemed threat to the state. But St. Paul's imprisonment is well referenced by his Roman citizenship and decree of execution by Nero. The 3,000-year-old Carcer Tullianum has been closed to the public for over a year so that archaeologists could learn more about the site and install a new multimedia itinerary for visitors. The reopening of the Carcer Tullianum is an important moment for the cultural life of the city, said Rome's archaeological superintendent Francesco Prosperity. The new itinerary will help tell its extraordinary story, which is in many ways the story of the city, he added. Newly installed technology will now give visitors a chance to explore the site using tablet computers by holding the screen over landmarks inside the ancient prison to bring up more information and 3D reconstruction of how it all once looked, as well as allegedly housing pious inmates. The prison saw slew historical figures in shackles, including Vercingetorix, the legendary leader of the Gauls, who was eventually captured, imprisoned, and executed by Julius Caesar for his brave stance against the imperial might of ancient Rome. Vercingetorix has subsequently been immortalized in the popular French comic Asterix. But the history of the prison goes far beyond famous inmates. During recent digs, archaeologists unearthed a lemon which had been ritualistically buried in the 1st century BC, making it the earliest example of a lemon ever found in Europe. Citrus cultivation did not become widespread in Italy until the middle of the 15th century, after Christopher Columbus brought back a collection of the sour fruit from an Asian voyage. Inside the jail, archaeologists also found evidence that the structure had existed on the site for some 3,000 years, after they turned up the foundations, a 9th century BC wall, and 2 ancient burials, all of which can now be explored in detail at the swipe of the thumb. Kindly leave a comment to let me know your thoughts on this. For more interesting stories, please check this playlist here. Please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel.